Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Amaris Bashi. I'm one of the two national advisors for the refugee program at the United Church of Canada. Welcome to the first of series of online meetings to offer refugee sponsorship support to the United Church communities of faith, otherwise known as the constituent groups and their co-sponsors. We hope this meeting will be a good start of a meaningful conversation around how we do sponsorship in the church.
Hello, my name is Hwaka Kukubo. I'm also a national advisor for the refugee program. As we start, we would like to take a moment to honor the land. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Hood and Oshoni, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with Mississaugas of the Credit. We welcome you all to acknowledge in the chat the land you are on today. Would like to invite Reverend Jim Tenford to open the meeting with a word of prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Holy God, we gather across distance to be near in your presence, to be inspired, to take part in the work that you're doing. We rejoice at the invitation to enter your realm and to sit at your banquet table. We rejoice that while we are invited, we are also called to share that invitation widely, to not only speak welcome, to be what is needed to assist in making sure that all find your blessing. As we meet today, may this be seen as our acceptance of your call to help those who need help, inspire those who can assist, and always watch for our global neighbors. We pray in the name of the one who started his life as a refugee. Amen.
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 We now would like to invite Reverend Dr. Japhet Ndlovu to introduce himself and open this consultation officially.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Mimi, if you could stop sharing so I can share.
Yeah, sure.
Welcome, welcome, and greetings to all of you that have found time to be in this space. My name is Japhet Ndlovu. I serve as Executive Minister for the Church in Mission Unit at the General Council of the United Church of Canada. And this is the unit that houses the Refugee Sponsorship Program. In welcoming you to this space, my dear friends, I would like to share two words, two important words. First of all, I just want to show them on the screen, and then I will talk about them. They are hiding. I will find them. There we are. Two important words, my friends, as we think about the work that we do. First of all, the first word is solidarity. I will say many other things, and if you can forget all of them, at least remember these two words. Solidarity. What does that mean for you when we are doing work around refugee sponsorship? And the second word is hospitality. hospitality. It evokes many other words in our minds. As you can see on the screen, it's about caring, it's about protection, it's about respect, it's about cultures, it's relationships, it's about guests, and several other things. And so, my dear friends, as we gather in this space and think about the work that we do, I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you that commit your time. Thank you to all of you that commit your gifts. Thank you to all of you that commit your resources to this important piece of our work. And when we are involved in this work, we all need to commit to a call to solidarity. That means to continue working for advocacy, for laws that respect human rights of immigrants and preserve the unity of the immigrant family. We thank you most sincerely for the extension of social services, the work you do around hosting. Some of you may be even involved in citizenship classes to help immigrants finally make their other home. The community organizing efforts that secure improved housing conditions, better medical attention, and appropriate educational opportunities for immigrants and refugees. We should continue in our solidarity to advocate for reform of those immigration laws that have undermined some basic human rights for immigrants. We should join others of goodwill, particularly in a call for legalization opportunities for the maximum number of people, sometimes called undocumented, people still struggling in Canada just to get that permanent resident status. And then they become what we may term as undocumented. Yes, I know many activists have said nobody's undocumented. There are those who have continued to contribute to their communities and have built equities in this country. We are a church, and hospitality is part of our calling. And throughout the sacred Christian texts, God makes hospitality or welcome towards strangers unmistakably clear. One key example of this is how God instructed the people, Israel, to treat foreigners who lived among them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself. If you were foreigners in Egypt, I am the Lord your God. The text says somewhere in Leviticus chapter 19. God starts off by saying foreigners are to be treated as native born, which in itself goes against our culture of exclusion, our culture of exclusive instincts to protect our local way of life and our borders, which even become a big political campaign platform during some elections. Keep the borders secure. Do not let them in. And one politician says, I will make sure that is done. Look at what is happening in Britain currently. And look at what we have done here in Canada by closing off certain border points where people who want to seek asylum want to come through. Well, then the text goes on to say, love them as yourself. Foreigners and strangers in our communities aren't just to be viewed as someone else's problem. They are people who need care, There are people who need hospitality. There are people who need honor. And in many cases, there are people in need of safety and protection. And God reminded the people that they were foreigners in Egypt. Jacob and his sons had fled as refugees to Egypt to escape famine in their own land. Initially, they became part of the Egyptian system, but after a time, their descendants, the text tells us that the people of Israel were effectively cut off and forced into slavery, having been outside and undesirable. So then hospitality is central to the meaning of the gospel. Hospitality is central to our identity. Hospitality is central to who we are as a Christian people. And so as we think about other dynamics, the challenges and opportunities, let us remember those two words: solidarity and hospitality. You're welcome to this space, and please feel free to share your thoughts, ideas, suggestions, challenges, so that we can do this work much better in welcoming strangers, in offering solidarity in terms of the advocacy work. Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon or good morning, whichever part of this country you are connecting from. Thank you.
Thank you, Japhet, for your opening words. Before we move on, we would like to introduce the rest of the team. This is Mimi from the Refugee Program Support. I would like to call Angie to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Angie, and I work in Church and Mission Unit, and part of my responsibilities is to support the refugee team. And my main job is to respond to emails, hundreds of emails that are sent to the refugee inbox, and I respond to those individually. And thank you. I'm happy to be here and to see you all.
Next, we have Jim Tenford to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Jim Tenford I live in Regina, Saskatchewan, and I'm sort of the liaison for the Saskatchewan area, helping with answering any questions I can. And I don't do this alone. Donna Nelson is also on the screen here. She actually is the one that probably knows more than I do and does more work on this than I do. The amount of refugee support that she does is amazing. Actually, I'm sorry, Donna, this is probably embarrassing, but I have to give a plug that she actually just won I think it was the Citizen of the Year award or something in Regina for the amount of work that she does for our community.
It was
quite amazing.
Yeah, Saskatchewan Volunteer Medal. But
thank you for correcting me. See, I can't even get that right. Yeah, so we're a team, Donna and myself.
Thank you, Donna. Maggie, you are welcome to introduce yourself. Are you here, Maggie?
Yes, sorry. I'm Maggie Hosgood in Vancouver, and I help coordinate the West Coast of BC for sponsorships, questions, inter-church work. And I've been doing this since 1989.
Wow. Thank you, Maggie. Next, we have Martha. Are you here, Martha? No. Okay, Norma, welcome, and please introduce yourself.
I am in Ottawa, and I am the Jim or Maggie, Martha, in this area, mainly for Eastern Ontario, Ottawa Regional Council, and to some degree to make connections for East Central. They have one a name just like ours, only they're the next region over, East Central Ontario Regional Council. And I think that there's at least one person from Ottawa on the line. I thought I saw Elizabeth Bryce from Rideau Park United Church. They do a huge number. And I'm going to take a brag. They had an arrival of 2 unaccompanied children, and their dad is over the moon, to say the least. I'm excited, and I have really nothing to do with it other than that. Yeah.
Thank you, Narma. We also want to thank Steve, who has been a great support in getting this consultation going. Steve, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I can do that. Stephen Fetter here from United in Learning at the General Counsel Office. I'm delighted to be able to support this group. Blessings to you all.
This meeting is for the United Church of Canada sponsors and their co-sponsors as they relate with the GCO and IRCC and its programs such as the RSTP. There will be room for questions and answers, so please write your questions or comments in the chat. Due to time restriction, we will attempt to address a few of them during the meeting. For those questions we are not able to respond to, we will include a response in a document which will be posted on ChurchX. For questions about individual refugee cases, please email us direct, as we will not be able to address them here due to privacy.
Great, thank you, Mimi. We would like to start with an icebreaker. Steve, we created 2 question pool, and Steve will help me launch this question and show us the result of each. Steve, can you please start with the first one?
Okay, sorry. What I didn't understand that you were asking me to create polls, Amar, so I have not done that. What was the first question? We'll just have people in the chat.
So yes, let's ask them in the chat. Where can everyone write in the chat? Where are you joining us from? In the regional council?
So just so that people know, if you haven't found the chat yet, move your mouse over where our pictures are, and you should see an icon at the bottom of the screen that says chat. Most of you have found it, and people are certainly writing in already.
Saskatchewan, Mississauga, BC, Ontario. Awesome. Prince Edward. Great. Thank you so much. Have a great representation. The second question is, how long have you been involved in private sponsorship? Great, wow. Just starting, welcome. Awesome. Great, thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. Is it done with the questions?
Yes, we're done with the question. Thank you, everyone.
And let's start with the history. In 1979, the United Church of Canada signed its first sponsorship agreement. This was during the height of the Indochina refugee crisis. The United Church of Canada was actively involved in the sponsorship of the refugees from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos in the 1970s and throughout the early 1980s through the Private Sponsorship of Refugee Program, PSRP. The United Church of Canada is a national SA sponsoring from coast to coast to coast in every province and territory, except Quebec for sure, which has its own process for refugee sponsorship through its Minister of International Relations and La Francophonie and Minister of Immigration, Francization and Integration. The United Church of Canada sponsors through communities of faith and their co-sponsors, pastoral charges, and partners like Lifeline Syria and Rainbow Refugee Society. Communities of faith sponsor most populations of concern and will also participate in any ministerial instruction. Next.
I have to unmute myself. So this chart shows our submission from 1998 until today, 2023. These are the number of refugees we submitted an application for. It does not mean that all of them arrived, because these numbers also include, can be still under processing, refused, withdrawn, etc. As you can see, there was a sharp increase during from 2015, 2016 during Operation Syria, where we reached 2,000 people almost per year. And then we are going back to normal processing numbers.
So the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the UNHCR, estimates that 103 million people have been forcibly displaced. Of these, 32.5 million are refugees, while 5.3 million are in need of international protection, mostly through resettlement efforts, such as the refugee sponsorship that you, the sponsors, do. So the short clip we are about to watch tells us that the number of refugees in the world has doubled.
There are 100 integral of our Christian faith. In the Old Testament, the book of Exodus, chapter 22, verses 21, Leviticus, chapter 19, verses 33 to 34, Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verses 17 to 19. The people of Israel are frequently reminded of the obligation to care for those who are strangers or foreigners because of their own history as foreigners in the land of Egypt. Part of the video we are about to watch now features St. Andreas Wesley United Church and how they got into refugee sponsorship.
Great, thank you so much, Mimi. I believe Donna is with us here today. Thank you, Donna, for all your work. The next slide is about RSTP. So RSTP are the Refugee Sponsorship Training Program. They're a program designed to support and train sponsors in Canada. They help sponsorship agreement holders, their CGs, co-sponsors, group of 5, and community sponsorship all over Canada except Quebec. The program is funded by Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, IRCC, and is being run by, administered by the Catholic Cross Culture Services, CCS. They work, they provide monthly webinars. They do have also a couple of courses. They do it per semester about sponsorship. They also work closely with the SAC Council and broader sponsoring communities. They have an advisory group that that represent various voices of diverse community, SAC community across Canada. And that advisory committee, they provide guidance and planning assistance to RSTP.
So we'll now talk about the triaging process. So when communities of faith make a decision to sponsor refugees to Canada, they send the refugee desk here at the General Counsel office an application package that consists of the documentation from the refugee overseas, plus their own sponsorship package, the forms they complete. When the package is received, it is listed into the submission list, which is also known as the wait list. That's the common name that we have here, with the date it is received. It is then reviewed, the package is then reviewed and checked for completion, while when we pay attention to the form formats as per the checklist. A file is opened for the case, for that particular case, and a CRM database account is created. Next, all the documentation received is uploaded into the system, and a form and a report is generated, which is sent to the contact persons who signed the IMM 5373, which is also known as the Sponsorship Undertaking Agreement.
Speaking of waitlist, since 2012, IRCC imposes a cap system on the number of applications each sponsorship agreement holder submit per calendar year. The waitlist is currently used to help the refugee desk to track the interest in sponsorship. Also, it helps to plan the numbers for the following year. The decision on how many applications are submitted annually is decided based on the waitlist numbers and the capacity of the GCO staff, which is us, plus what the government will give the staff. The waitlist, the wait time on the submission lists can be really long. This is because of several reasons, like how many allocations the government will give, when the government releases the annual allocations, capacity of the refugee desk. So all these factors affect the wait time.
Great, thank you, Mimi. Our refugee advisory group, and I believe you met some of them today. So the refugee advisory group member are refugee sponsorship resource person and the regional advisor on the refugee sponsorship in a specific regions. They're often appointed by the regional council. They provide consultation, advice, and support to sponsors in the region. They attend the Sponsorship Agreement Holders Conference, Canadian Council of Refugees meetings, regional sponsorship group meetings, and other related meetings as required. They also participate in a regular RAG meeting every month.
You are muted, Kwaka.
So we're going to talk about the IRCC processing time. It's going to be very brief, so nothing in detail for this time. So Mimi is going to play a clip that is going to show us a quick way to access and use IRCC's processing time link. So you'll go to Google and type in processing time for the IRCC. Once you enter that, it will take you to, it will show you the different links. So you'll click on the check processing time link. So you'll scroll to the bottom and go to and select the application time and choose refugees. A second box will appear asking which refugee program you're using. So check select privately sponsored refugees. A third box will appear asking which country the refugee is hosted, not where they are from, but where they are hosted. So if the refugee is from Eritrea and is hosted in Ethiopia, that is the visa office that will show that. I think the video has frozen. Anyway, so once you click Get Processing Time, a box will appear showing 2 benchmarks. So those, let's see if it goes there. Yes. So those 2 benchmarks is the first step and the second step. So in the first step, it's telling you how many months, up to how many months it will take for us to receive an approval from the office in Ottawa. And then the second benchmark is step 2 that will show us how many months it will take for the application to be processed. So you'll notice that different host countries have different processing time for their benchmarks. So for example, out of Ankara, you see it's 23 months. And previously out of Ethiopia, it was taking 37 months. I think we can go to the next clip. Thank you.
So we would like also to talk about how to check application status. So the process usually when we submit an application to ROCO, after a while we receive what they call an acknowledgement of receipt, which contains the name of the refugees we submitted per application and the G number. This means that they created an account for them in the system. I think they call GCMO system. It used to be a few days later we'll get an approval email, but recently it's taking months later to get an approval email. The approval email is being received by the SA, the CG, the co-sponsor if there is any, and the principal applicant, the refugee. The approval email include what they call the unique client identification number for the principal applicant, and also the G number, the family size, the destination, the city destination that the refugee is supposed to go to, and the visa office who the file has been referred to, the visa office responsible of processing application of that particular country. We will show you how you can check status online. So you just Google application status and IRCC. You can choose one of the 3 first results, I think the third one, and then you can go to the next one. On this page, you just read the terms and condition and you approve it. You press continue. Here on the identification type, you choose either the UCI, the unique client identification number, or you can choose the G number, the application number. And also you have to enter the last name of the principal applicant, the date of birth, and the place of birth. Then if everything is correct and accurate, it will take you to I think you have to go before one. Sorry. Yeah, I'll take you to this page where it tells you application received or application approved, or then you click on application received. It will, if you go to the next one, please. Yeah, it will tell you where the application is in the process. Next one. Yeah, it says in process. Next one. Yeah.
So the notice of arrival transmission, every once in a while, mostly when the weather is starts to warm up in Canada, we start to receive notification of arrival transmission, also known as NATS email. NATS are emails that tell the sponsors when the refugee will arrive, including special instruction on what additional support is required for the refugee. So it has the travel, these additional support. It could be for travel or for settlement and or medical support in Canada. For medical support, you will receive instructions on specifics, such as which medical specialists need to be seen and within what time period of arrival. So NATS can also help sponsors to adjust their budget if special dietary instructions have been noted. NAT also helps the refugee desk and the CG figure out how much money and support is required to have a successful sponsorship. Once the NAT is processed into the system, we can tell when the last day of the sponsorship will be.
So the IOM provides, that's the International Organization for Migration, provides logistical support to Canada, to the refugees who are coming to Canada. So most of the time they may accompany the refugees from their host country through the transit countries and into Canada. When they arrive in Canada, they will go through the process and then hand over the refugees to the welcoming agencies at the point of entry. Our next video clip is out of Port of Spain. So that was one of the examples, Port of Spain in the Caribbean. And it will help us learn about the work of the IOM, the International Organization for Migration, in the resettlement process, which includes 4 main areas. It will talk about case management, health assessment and related assistance, movement, management and operations, and it will also address integrating pre-departure and post-arrival.
So after refugees or newcomers arrive, we listed part of the sponsorship, sponsoring group settlement responsibilities. They're included but not limited to welcoming them at the airport, orienting them to life in Canada, arranging temporary accommodation, and helping them find a permanent one, applying for health card, find doctor, dentist, and health services, enroll children in school, if any, apply for child tax benefit, enroll in English classes, connect them with settlement agency, apply for social insurance number for sure, and help them find a job eventually. Of course, opening bank account, and provide them with emotional and moral support.
So for settlement services are most often provided by local community organizations such as multicultural societies, neighborhood houses, or libraries. Settlement agencies may be able to help newcomers to look for a job or volunteering opportunity, making new friends, register for languages classes, understanding the local culture and customs in Canada, and understanding their rights, responsibilities in Canada. Next, here are some of our partners: the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee, UNHCR, International Organization for Migration, IOM, and there's Canadian Council for Refugees, CCR, Rainbow Refugee Society, and ORA as well, Refugee Sponsorship Training Program, RSTP.
Challenges. So the program has, the Canadian immigration and migration landscape has transformed and changed drastically in the last decade. The interest increased in sponsorship since Operation Syria. And this came with challenges to accommodate the increased number of sponsors. In the latest few years, the pandemic has impacted almost all aspects of life, including immigration levels. No one was letting anyone in and out. So in all of the sudden, there was a sharp decrease of arrival of foreign nationals to Canada because of border restriction during COVID-19. This unfortunately did not stop people from applying to IRCC to come to Canada for permanent residence, applying for citizenship, or for foreign national coming in as a seasonal migrant workers. There's also, so the number of, the processing time has increased drastically. And it caused a major backlog in processing application, all programs, including the refugee sponsorship one. Also, the recent strike that caused that 155,000 federal staff went on strike, including IRCC staff. This has increased the backlog by 100,000 applications in all programs, including the refugee program. In 2020, sorry, IRCC introduced what they call the Program Integrity Framework. It's an exercise that was done with the Sponsorship Agreement Holder Council in order to redefine the program before the renewal of our new agreement. They came up with what they called IRCC risk assessment exercise. So we had to reapply again last year, all sponsorship agreement holders, and provide to let IRCC know what's our internal process. And based on that, IRCC is doing a risk assessment, and they were categorized sponsorship agreement holders into 3 groups. We're still waiting for the result. It should come up very soon, where we know, and each category, the processing of their application will be different per se. Also, IRCC introduced the quality assurance activities. They created a team. Their job is to monitor cases and make sure that the sponsors are meeting the requirement as per the Act and the regulation. So you might receive a random email from IRCC to check on your case, and with specific period of time to respond, I think 30 days. And the next challenge is, as you know, the new and current crisis. As you know, in the latest few years, there is few new crises, and all crises erupted again: Afghanistan, Sudan, Ukraine. This has increased the demand on sponsorship, and also had made the staff trying to figure out how we can help first the current refugee that we're already sponsoring in that country, in these areas, in Sudan, Afghanistan, and how we can increase submission in that area. The latest also challenge is GCO staff capacity. With the new exercises that IRCC is enforcing on us, we had the capacity of the staff has been decreasing in general, and this will may cause also a decrease of number of refugees we were able to sponsor per year.
So thank you all for your patience as we briefly walked you through how we do what we do at the Refugee Desk. So we'll quickly take 3 to 4 questions now as received in the chat, or if you are able, you could raise your hand and you could ask your question. You'll be unmuted and I could ask your question. And we'll respond with brief answers. Most responses, as you know, surrounding refugee sponsorship and immigration are lengthy and specific to either region or particular cases themselves. So we welcome you to continue posting your questions and concerns on the chat and promise to respond to them in a document that will be shared on the chat X. So you can raise your hands as we respond to questions as received. So the first question we received.
It's from Brenda. She's asking, can you tell me what Lifeline Syria is? A group I'm thinking, but what is their mandate? Kwaka, would you like to respond?
I think Lifeline Syria was, I don't know whether it was created or we partnered with Lifeline Syria during the Syrian crisis, and they were acting, the memorandum of understanding we had was for them to work with us to sponsor refugees, Syrian refugees. I'm not so sure what the mandate is, or I can't remember because it's been quite a bit of time. However, we can share the website. Do we still have the website, Omar?
We can look it up. I think their mandate, that was 2015, is to bring 2,000 Syrian refugees into the GTA at that time. And I think they fulfilled it.
Yes, so what we'll do is we'll take that question and we'll put it onto the document we are creating with your questions, and we shall post an answer once we have the answers.
Yeah.
Are there any hands up or questions?
Yeah, Mary had her hand up.
Hello, I thought it might be easier if I asked this, and if it's beyond the scope of this, let me know. We have recently had one family arrive and another family has got their NAT. Our church functions solely as the keeper of the funds, and we partner with local organizations to co-sponsor and do all the settlement. Both groups have sort of asked that we send all the money that's sitting in the sponsorship that we have, that we're holding, and that they will manage it. Is that permitted? Am I allowed to send all of the funds to them for them to manage, or do I, because what I read says I'm supposed to be distributing the money to them. And so I'm wondering if this is something new. They say this is the way they've been doing it for years. These are groups that have been sponsoring for years. Or is that a change, or? And
yeah, I would say it's no, you should keep the money. I mean, it's an agreement between you and the co-sponsor, but I think we require the CG, which is the United Community of Faith, to control the money and issue checks to the newcomers directly as directed. If there's any expenses that the co-sponsor already paid, they can submit a receipt to you and you can give them the money back, but the money should be controlled by the United Church.
That's what I thought. So I don't know how they're doing it with the other groups, but we'll deal with it that way. Thank you.
The next question, I think Nasser has a question. He raised his hand. Is it the same question you have on the chat?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, the question is about the SAW agreement. Is the United Church how do you obtain that SAW agreement? That's what I want to know. Thank you so much.
So the United Church of Canada signed its first agreement in 1979. So if you want to be, are you asking do you want to become a sponsorship agreement holder? You want to become a SA?
Well, my story is different. I just want to sponsor a family there right now in Pakistan, but I need a SAW agreement. So I tried to go to a lot of places and nobody's gonna trust me anything. So I just want to know if the United Church can be able to help me out. That's what I want to know, please, from RSTP side.
So the challenge that most sponsorship agreement holders have right now is the limited number of allocations given to us by the government. So the way the United Church of Canada functions is we sponsor cases referred to us by our congregations, or by the communities of faith. So you will want to contact the closest congregation or community of faith close to you if you want to sponsor through the United Church of Canada. However, you'll have to understand we have a very long wait list. We have many communities of faith that have already submitted their cases that they want to sponsor. And if you're hoping to, the wait might be long if you submit your case through with one of the congregations to us. So we are suggesting that if you have an agreement with one of our communities of faith, you be patient, because whatever cases we receive as from today, I think Mimi will agree with me, will only be submitted next year if they are not for a particular category of refugees.
And also I have another question, because the IRCC opened a new window for SAW starting yesterday till September. Do you know anything about it?
No, so if they put it in the news, that's for whatever reason they want to put it in the news, but we only will act on it once they tell us in writing formally that we need to act on that announcement.
Great, thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. So we have 2 more questions. Do we have time for that?
So we are supposed to take a break at 2. I don't think we have that, because so anyone who has a question can put it in the chat, and then we shall respond to those questions and put them in a document. But for now, we want to take a short break to stretch our legs and maybe grab a drink and be back by 2:10, exactly 2:10. So please don't log off, just grab some water, stretch your legs, and let's meet up at 2:10.
So,
Thank you.
let me remind people that are not in the Eastern time zone that would be 10 minutes from now, regardless of which time zone you're in. And so make the conversion in your head, because we've got 5.5 hours of time zones across the country here.
Yep.
Welcome back. We hope you had a fruitful discussion. Please email us with all your comments and suggestions. I will leave my email in the chat box here. We look forward to learning from your comments and suggestions for improvements, and we will also share them on ChurchX. So Steve, can you please speak briefly about how to access resources on ChurchX?
Sure, happy to do that. Let me just spotlight my video again. So I think you've probably found your way into the ChurchX page already. I hope you have. But if you end up at the dashboard, you would find it by looking for the icon related to this course. And if you found it through one of the links that I've sent out, you've got a magic link that will take you right there. So it's at the same place that you found the Zoom link for today. Here's our program. Here's the Zoom link. Here's a little bit about you. And we were hoping that you would tell Kwaka and Amar and their team a little bit more about who you are, so that they just have a sense of who's watching this. But then underneath, look at all these different links that they have posted for you. Just one after the other. So let this be a little bit of a library for you, so that you can find the different resources you need. And now that you've been part of this webinar, you can come back here at any point and pick up any of those documents. I am going to add a copy of the recording right here under the announcement section. So it'll take me probably a day to get it edited, and we'll chop the tail and head off it so that it sort of transitions nicely and smoothly into the program. And we'll put a copy there so that if you've got friends who need to see the recording and so on, you can share it with them there. Any other questions you have about that, by all means, let me know. And otherwise, I'll turn things back to the team.
Sorry about that. I was trying to find the unmute button, but I found I was already unmuted. So we want to thank everyone for participating in this meeting today. We still have a bit of time. Mimi, Amar, what are your suggestions? Can we take a few questions? Can we answer a few questions?
Yeah, I think so. I think there are 2 questions in the chat. I'm trying to scroll up. Okay, Mary had a question. What's the difference between a refugee and asylum seeker? Is the process for sponsoring them the same?
Do we give the technical answer, or so what? An asylum seeker is someone who we want to call them refugees, you know, but what they are people who are seeking refuge in the host country, but have not yet been mandated by either the United Nations High Commissioner or by or have not been given a refugee status determination. It's difficult for me to say it in general terms because I only seem to know the legal terminology. We call everyone who has fled their country refugees, but there are different categories. So refugees are usually people who have been determined to be refugees, that it's been proven beyond a doubt that they are refugees, that they're actually fleeing. The reasons they're fleeing from are genuine. But asylum seekers is generally everyone who flees. So when people are fleeing for the first time, for example, when Syria went into chaos, everyone was fleeing. They were prima facie, they're called prima facie refugees, but their correct terminology is that they're asylum seekers. They were seeking asylum in other countries. Majority of them, there was no time to get them mandated by the UNHCR because the UNHCR didn't have the capacity. So therefore, they technically were asylum seekers, but for purposes of resettlement, then we call them refugees. To get a UNHCR mandate certificate to be known as a refugee or even RSDs can take several years, anywhere from 2 to 10 years. So does anyone have anything else to add?
I think just bear in mind that some countries, UNHCR are not allowed to offer refugee status. And some countries, they don't even have the process, like in Lebanon, most of the Middle East, UNHCR is not allowed to do it, and countries, they don't do it. So they're all of them, if they're able to register, they might be called asylum seeker because they have a document saying they're seeking asylum, but most of them are not allowed to do that.
Sometimes they're also known as refugee claimants. So refugee claimants and asylum seekers is the same terminology, almost generally.
Great. Next question from Vicky. When I tried checking processing time for Syrian refugees through private sponsorship, the tool answered not enough data. Do you know why?
Yes. So when it says not enough data, it depends on which country that the refugee is in. So for example, if it's a country that does not welcome a lot of refugees, for example, if you're trying to find out what the processing time will be out of pick a country,
Iran.
or Iran, yes, so Iran. IRCC doesn't have an official office in Iran. And then Iran might be receiving a lot of refugees, but not enough for IRCC to determine, because they don't have an office, they don't know how they're going to process, like they don't really have a backlog, or they might have, but they're unable to process cases out of there. There are no specific inventories they can say, they can use to say how long they'll take to process. Yeah, so technically it's, if the refugees are in countries that do not actively receive refugees and don't have a IRCC presence, then it's difficult for IRCC to put the number of months or years that the processing will take. So you look at the closest office. So for example, in if it's Iran, you might want to see what the processing time out of Delhi is. Delhi is the processing office for
Ankara.
Ankara?
Yeah.
It's Ankara, yeah. So you look at Ankara. So Ankara would be the processing office. So you want to use that as to gauge how long the processing time will be.
Okay, great. Yep.
Vicky.
Thank you. Robin is asking, no, sorry, there's Mary. Mary, does WOW region have a resource person in the RAG? Which one is WOW region? Western Ontario Waterways. Sorry.
Would that be Kathy?
I am completely unaware that we had somebody like that.
No,
And
unfortunately.
how do you find out who it is?
I think it would be great to encourage. We've been trying to encourage some regional councils to see if they can nominate somebody to be a regional, a refugee advisory member. So we'll continue to do that, and you could also write to your regional council and see if they can accept, they can nominate somebody or accept a volunteer or, somebody to be part of the regional refugee advisory group.
That'd be great.
Sorry, Emma, can I say something? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I just want to know, how could we be able to push the Canadian government to get that refugee, the United Nations, which is called UNHCR status in any country, because without that, nobody refugee can able to obtain or to come or do anything at all, because there's a level of Canadian government who has to step in there to help these people. That will be going to help a lot of refugees, and the level of sponsorship so much easy, because a lot of countries, if you don't have any UNHCR, nobody going to recognize you. That's what happens. Look at what happens in Turkey, because in Turkey, they have over 3 million refugees. And here in this country, this is the second largest country. We can have over 10 million refugees because of the land and everything. So what do you guys think? I think it's all about the level of government. Thank you.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's beyond our level of discussion here, but that's a really good point. I think it's something you can present to your local MP to see if they can present it to Parliament.
Yeah. Thank you, Nasser. Next question, Robin is asking, how many spots for refugees did IRCC allocate to United Church this year? We received 125. So these are two. If there's any other questions?
I think for any other questions that will come, they can write them in the chat, or they could write to us. Can we have our emails in the chat? So they could write to us, and they could forward them to us. And I think for now we have 4 minutes left, but I think because we've had quite a long meeting, I want to thank everybody for participating in this consultation. This is just one of many meetings that will come. Our next meeting, and it will be much bigger, will be in the fall. This time we recognize that a lot of communities of faith were participating in the regional council AGMs. Also, please don't forget to fill out the survey in ChurchX so that we know how we did. And we look forward to seeing you all in the fall. For for our next big meeting. It hopefully it should be a 2-day meeting, and there'll be more outside guests, and we'll also have learned from the comments that you will share with us. If there's nothing else, we would like to ask Jim to close the meeting with a prayer. Is Jim there? No?
Okay, let's pray. God of all creation, breathing life into us and neighbor, we thank you for your time with us in this gathering. May we move from this place inspired by what we've experienced, ready to be your hands and feet and offer hospitality to those who most need it. May we always remember that for far too many, salvation isn't a matter of theology or afterlife, but instead salvation is found in open arms and compassionate hearts. Thank you for our place in your world, and may we respond with great gratitude and action. Amen.
Amen.
Okay,
That was
thank you,
a
Jim.
beautiful
Thank you for
prayer.
everything.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all.
everyone. Take care.
Bye.